And literally it's how I can take a $20 offer and sell a 20K package in like record time. So under 14 days. The issue with lead magnet strategy, well, okay. How deep going into like the strategy of like how it's built?
As deep as you want to.
I love a good deep
Let's
strategy
go.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's not. So here's exactly what I would do if I wanted to start. Mistake people make when it comes to low ticket is they think low ticket is low value, or they think low ticket's for beginners. People weren't ready for their high ticket stuff. And so what they do is they actually create space between people entering their world and people ascending in their world. So like all of my offers are built for one person. You know what's so crazy though is I feel like we tend to hear funnels and ads and like we get so weirded out by that. Like the idea that it's going to take so much work. I literally reuse.
Welcome back to the Sustainable Creator Podcast. Today we are chatting all about how to create a passive sales system for your one-to-many offers with the one and only Melanie Aubert. If you guys do not know who Mel is, you're in for a treat today. I had the privilege of being able to connect with Mel in person a handful of years ago. I have been able to see her go through many evolutions in her business and really just own her strength and her role as a sales coach. She really knows what she is talking about, let me tell you. She's not like many other sales coaches that you see out there. I'm just going to say that and leave it at that. But today we're going to nerd out about passive sales systems. She is a pro with one-to-many offers, and I know that a lot of you listening are very interested in either creating a one-to-many offer or you're already in the early stages and you want to know how to make it work really well for you and be sustainable. So with that, welcome to the podcast, Mel. We're stoked that you're here.
Having me. You've literally seen me in like every evolution of business. Like,
literally.
Beginning to now. So that's crazy.
Yeah, it's been very fun to see. And I mean, like I mentioned before we hit record, I can see how it's all really just connected so perfectly into where you're at now. And it's just really cool. So very full circle.
Yes.
Without going all the way back in history, you've gone through multiple evolutions. What is the ecosystem for your business that you've landed on today?
Yeah. So the business that I land on today is primarily one-to-many offers. So passive income is my jam. As a mom of two, there's no other way. I mean, I have closer proximity, I have my mastermind, but I want the heart of my business to exist without me having to be in it. So right now it's having a multitude of low ticket offers that feed into my higher ticket space that sells for me without me having to live launch or actively sell 24/7 because I just frankly don't have the time or the energy to do that.
Yeah. I am really excited to get into the strategy behind it too. And real quick, can you, because I feel like there's a few different definitions of what passive means. So what is your definition of a passive offer in this case?
A great clarifying question, because we tend to think that passive offers are just having an offer that you buy passively, right? But the problem with that is you still have to actively sell that said passive offer. So people tend to avoid the whole passive one-to-many offers because it feels like more work for less money because you're selling a lower ticket item. So what I have really mastered is a passive sales strategy, which is when you have passive offers that sell without you having to sell. So it's a bit more intricate, a bit more intentional, built around more of a long-term buying experience, if you will, that I've really, really mastered. But that's the difference between what we tend to see as like passive income, passive offers versus what I do and teach is if you can't be launch optional, if you, let's say, God forbid, got hit by a bus tomorrow, your business doesn't make money without you, you don't have passive income or a sustainable business at that. So that's how I see it.
I think one of the things that's interesting for me when I see how you think about passive income is that's not an end point for you. Like that's a start point into your business. And you talked about this a little bit when you were talking about how your business is right now. Can you explain where you see a low ticket or a one-to-many offer fit into like an ascension or something inside of a business?
Absolutely. So it should always be an entry point. So how we see business traditionally is someone's entry into your world is social media, it's your content, it's you always have to keep up with the exposure piece. And so what I wanted to do, especially because myself, your audience, it's when you're brilliant and you have a lot of intelligence and a lot of knowledge, it doesn't always fit on social media in that way. So I like to look at how can I create a legacy low ticket passive offer that is a taste of what I do, my brand standards, my brand values, my way of coaching and teaching. How can I use that low ticket offer to seed other offers within my ecosystem? I use it as a place where, again, it's a buying experience. They get a taste and they want everything else. And so when we build that intentionally, that's when you really change the game of what's possible in terms of stacking cash flow. People, again, tend to see it as, let me just create a low ticket offer, put as much stuff in it as possible to create high value, and they end up stalling out the ascension because they're overfilling, their ideal client with too much information. There's no clear ascension from there. So I like to look at it as, how can I make this, when they get a taste, I call it the catnip strategy. They get a taste, they want everything else. And literally, it's how I can take a $22 offer and sell a 20K package in like record time. So under 14 days. It's that. Yeah.
That's one thing that I admire about you is you're very quick when it comes to launching. At least from the outside perspective, that's how it appears. You can take an idea, and because you have systems and processes that are like true, they work for you. You know exactly what to do to make them happen quicker. And so I definitely want to get into more of the strategy side of it first. But before that, okay, I know that thinking about your offers can feel a little bit overwhelming sometimes, especially with the changing economy and all of the amazing, brilliant ideas that you have on any daily basis. But that's where having business coaches can come in real handy. And I know you've seen a lot of different things out there about business coaches, but let me just reassure you real quick. Lyndon and I are not your average business coaches. We have a very unique approach. We call it the two coach approach. A lot of our clients call us left brain, right brain. I'm the right brain. And that works really well for our clients because we're able to blend our strengths as coaches to serve you really well. And one of our specialties is helping you design an offer ecosystem that allows you to increase your customer lifetime value and also operate within that wheelhouse that you fully thrive in. We want you to be able to run a business that you adore while connecting with dream clients. While it can sound like a cliche, we know how beautiful and fulfilling that can be, and we want you to be able to do that yourself. And working with the right business coaches for you who can help you identify what your offer ecosystem is, the marketing moves that are going to connect you with those dream clients, the sales processes that you're going to be able to stick with based on your own unique selling style, that can be incredibly valuable. But at the end of the day, overall, what we're going to do is we're going to push you to dream even bigger, because the reason you got into business in the first place was because you saw a need. You had something you were passionate about and you turned it into profit. And that doesn't stop. That only continues to elevate and improve over and over and over again. And having two coaches in your corner who are able to push you to go even bigger and believe in yourself even more, that can be tremendously invaluable. So if you want to know more about what our coaching looks like, hit us up on Instagram at Joe and Lyndon. That is the best place to get in touch with us. We can talk more about packages and what it looks like for you, how we can support you the best. You deserve to have someone in your corner who is going to help you design the business that you love without spinning your wheels. And we would be honored to be those coaches for you. Can you give a quick myth buster, if you will, on, I think sometimes there's this narrative we give ourselves on we don't want to launch too many things because we might be seen as inconsistent. Clearly, you have shown that it works to launch multiple offers throughout the year or even a quarter, and they all lead into one outcome or multiple upsells. So can you just reframe for anyone who is listening and has been stuck in that mindset of like, I don't want to come across as inconsistent? How have you found it to work well for you, and how can it work for others listening?
It's a great question. I'd say, and this is a weird answer, but I'll loop back around. I've learned to master patience. And I feel like it's sort of lost right now in, I'd say, the online business world with how quickly people are moving. What feels inconsistent is when you know someone is just doing something to make money in the moment, right? It's like the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. We see a lot with AI right now. Everyone's creating something around that. And while that can work short term, I'm all about long-term business strategy. And I've mastered the patience of, what do I want to be known for, right? And then ensuring that everything I do create is going to feed that long-term vision. So for me, while it feels like I'm launching a lot or I'm doing a lot, I'm really not. And so I like to look at, if I know what I call my landing pad offer is, where I want everyone to end up, that full ascension, what do I need to create in terms of buying experience and mastery to get someone to that point, right? So I break it down that way. And I've learned to create a lot of patience around how people might want to enter my world based on that point of mastery, that entry offer. So What you're seeing is I'm launching a bunch of different things, but all of those things are feeding the same ascension, right? And
Yeah.
there are 3 to 4 main topics that I want to be known for on a micro level. So I'd say when we can master the patience, PAY, I like to say patience, we can master the patience to see again where everything is leading long term. And when we are launching multiple things at once, or most of my sales strategy launches or sells, I'm sorry, multiple items in its like in the actual buying experience, what I'll explain a bit in a little bit, but it's front facing. I'm always launching one thing, but that one launch is selling multiple things within that thing. So it's more of like a multi-layered process. But I'd say, going back to your original question, is I am not, if you're afraid of selling too many things, I want you to one, ask yourself, are these topics or conversations you want to be known for long term? If Oprah was going to introduce you on stage, are these conversations that you want as part of your legacy? Going back to legacy, low ticket is what I always like to say. And then two, are you constantly launching or selling something in the moment to make money in the moment? Like, is it compounding cash long term for you? If the answer is no, you are selling too much. You are confusing your audience. You are just doing things very reactively. And I see it a lot online because everyone's always trying to keep up with what's trending or what's. I just never have been a fan of that. I don't. I don't have the energy to keep up that way. So I would rather again think long term than build towards that. So it may feel like I have a lot that's going on. It really is all roads lead to the same thing.
I like that.
If I put this into context of conversations that we frequently hear, would you say you're doing almost like a paid version of what a lot of people think of as lead magnet strategy?
Yes. The issue with lead magnet strategy, well, okay. How deep going into like the strategy of like how it's built?
As deep as you want to.
I love a good deep
Let's
strategy
go.
rabbit hole.
Okay. So when we say lead magnet, yes and no. So the way I'm very anti-traditional sales, if you will, if you guys have not catch that already. But we tend to see, lead magnets and the old school way of generating leads as a numbers game, right? Get as many people as possible. The more you have, the more likely you can convert. But what tends to happen is we're spending so much more time actively selling to those people to get them to understand what makes our work so good, why they should buy, so on and so forth. The way that I like to create low ticket offers is, again, that catnip strategy. I'm collapsing so much buying time by how I'm building out a low ticket offer. I don't need a funnel. I don't need certain things that people have to rely on because they need more exposure to offer value, what makes them so good, why they're the ones. There's so much competition online. So again, it's quality over quantity, in my opinion, goes a long way, especially with how the online space has evolved, how much saturation there is. People tend to just go broad and wide. Very few are going deep. So when we see traditional lead magnets, yes and no, I am pulling you in, giving you value, but in a way that has more depth than the traditional way that we would typically see that, if that lands.
No, I think that's really helpful to understand and serves as a fantastic foundation for everything else that we're going to talk about today. So I want to get in a bit more of the strategy now, because one thing that I really respect about you is, yes, you run a lot of passive offers, but to your point, you're still very active. And I know that you're a big fan of having systems. So can you give just a brief overview of what is I'm sure you have multiple versions of systems, but if we were to just take an example of a one-to-many offer that you either just launched or that you're currently in the middle of a launch, what does your system look like so that it is making sales for you? And how active are you in that selling process?
It's a great question. So I'd say let's look at the cash flow calculator, because that's a very strategic low ticket offer. And all it is plug in your numbers, see how much your offer is actually worth. Okay. But again, very catnip driven. It's phenomenal. So that offer, when we look at how I sell that actively, I have ads behind it. So as sell, again, my ad system is very intentional, that sells the low ticket offer. Okay. That low ticket offer has layers that I'm selling within that low ticket offer to sell other offers. So not only am I, when you buy the ad or you go from the ad to the actual checkout, I'm selling multiple things at checkout. So that's a system, right? So the checkout page stacks cash. When they get into the program, multiple pathways to give exposure to other offers in my offer suite within curriculum, with how I design my lessons, within like the literal visual real estate of the actual course itself. And then from there, a funnel to then ascend into the next offer that I choose. And then from there, that offer sells again, going back to that system, multiple offers at checkout, has its own funnel from there. So you can see how it all kind of compounds and creates momentum on itself. So looking at how often I sell that, I actively will plug that into as like a pre-launch strategy before I go to sell anything once per quarter. Other than that, it makes money on its own through ads, on its own time, through content. It's one of my pinned posts. I just let it do its thing and it does phenomenal. So that's the offer where people will come in at $22, spend minimum 500 at checkout, right? Just from there, and then ascend into a 10K plus offer in less than 14 days. Cold audience, don't know me, didn't see social media just from an ad. But again, it's the quality of how I see the buying experience, not just buy this thing, then buy that thing. I know how to structure and stack value in a way that hits the buyer psychology, your trigger points, that feels very natural, not like I'm being sold to constantly. We feel that all day long. It's a very natural progression, which is what I love about it because it feels like you're selling without selling, essentially.
Wait.
So my analytical left brain has so many follow-up questions that I would love to pull from here. But if I simplify this down to someone thinking about building out their low ticket or passive offer flow right now, you just described a pretty big interconnected ecosystem of things flowing. Do you have to build it all at once or can you build it stepwise?
Yeah, it sounds complicated, but it's not. So here's exactly what I would do if I wanted to start. I'd have, what's the landing pad offer, right? Like, where do you want everyone to go? I do not recommend building a low ticket offer if they're not going anywhere else, right? Because low ticket is not going to pay the bills unless you have a really, really big audience, right? I have under 10K, so I'm not even in that realm of having a lot of volume. But what I would say to start with is what's the landing pad offer? And then what is the low ticket offer that we want to feed said landing pad offer, okay? There's a few different ways that I create low ticket offers depending on the frame or the idea. So we'll look at the cash flow calculator to give you an example here. So that intention of that was for people to see the potential within their own offer suite, right? So I know that with my clients in the Compounding Cash Club, which is my mastermind, they come to me because they're like, show me what I can do with what I'm already sitting on, right? So they want to see that potential. I thought to myself, if I'm doing that in a one-on-one setting, why don't I just give that to people, to the mass, right? I want them to see their own potential and then come to me with that potential and then want me to help them scale up. So I had the idea and I created, again, catnip curriculum style where it's a quick win. I'm seeding other offers within that very naturally. I'm showing them how I scale my offers, low ticket. Okay. From there, it's okay. Step 2 is how do I stack more offers on that offer at checkout? Literally takes you 15 minutes. I use Thrivecart, very simple to do, add more offers, and then go from there. What takes the most amount of time, I'd argue, is the funnel that you have from one offer to the next, the emails that you create. But even if I were to take out that funnel piece, even just how my low ticket offer curriculum is designed, it sells other offers without needing a funnel, right? So we don't always have to have those layers. I typically see it as like 3 stackable layers is one, the low ticket offer, the curriculum, stacking offers at checkout, and an actual funnel piece. So those are the 3 main bits and bobs that I tend to lean the heaviest into, but you don't have to have all 3 of those to make a massive amount of money just with having a low ticket. But even cash converting content, when I first launched that, I ended up making $750,000, $67 offer, but how it ascended to other offers. And I had 3 emails in that funnel. It was only 3 emails. It was very, very small.
I'm pretty sure cash converting content is where you got me into your funnel. And what is really cool for me is I've literally been in your funnel. And so I know how it works and I can testify it works, and that you do such a high quality product with your offers, which is why they work so well. Yeah. But what I just heard in everything you just shared is you're more focused on your customer lifetime value than you are on how many people you can get for any one offer. Correct. Is that right?
Yes. I see it as, because I feel like the online space is very much split when it comes to what kind of entrepreneur you are. It's either numbers driven, you see people as numbers, or you're like high value, love my people, client experience. I'm a solid mix of both. I have the numbers, the strategy. I like love analytics. That's math is where I thrive. Okay. But I also know I want to create an experience for my people. So I feel like the best of both worlds, when they come together, it truly is unmatched.
Yeah. Yeah, which is part of why it stands out so well.
Thank
I
you.
think the interesting thing for me is like as part of the prep process for this is we sent you a couple questions and you pushed back on one of the questions, like the premise of one of the questions that I had, asking about root causes versus symptoms. And I think it's really interesting now hearing you go through this. Like you pushed back of like I asked what the root cause is and you were like, no, the symptom is actually really important to talk about. And that's exactly how you're talking about the entry point here of like the symptom of how much can I make is actually more important at the entry point than talking about the root cause of how do they get there, because that's all a future upsell in how you're thinking about stacking that value. Is that correct?
Absolutely. That is, yes. Yeah. I say your question, the way that it was phrased, it reminds me a lot of my clients who are very intelligent. Okay. When this is the part too that kind of sucks about being an entrepreneur sometimes is when you know so much, it can be really hard for you to be like, okay, how do I pull out that one thing that's not all the things, right? Because you want to give everyone a lot of that value. So that's I think the toughest bit for a lot of people is they want to give the root cause. They want to show them, okay, here's the thing to get the result because they know how much all of it matters. And so there is a delicate process to focus on symptoms because what I said to you in my answer to your question was we sometimes can't see or don't want that root cause, right? Or don't want to know the root cause because the symptom is the loudest thing for us. So if we look at, let's just say the cash flow calculator, for instance, is they could be like, oh, I want to scale. I want to do all that stuff. Sure. Right. Like that sounds great, but I don't even know what I'm doing now. Like, I don't even know where I feel so confused with what I have currently. So having the cash flow calculator show them their own potential with what they already have, that creates a very fast, right, ascension into my mastermind without me having to even sell it because they see now I'm now showing them the root cause with their own aha, their own epiphany, right? But instead of me being like, now here's why you need the club, here's why I don't have to go through that traditional selling practice because I'm having them create their own epiphany to decide that themselves. So it's
Right.
unique. Yeah.
I think also like the sneaky strategy on the back end is like one of my favorite sales processes is ask the person to do the math of how valuable the investment is for them. And you're giving them the tools of like, here, do the math for yourself of how valuable it is to do this next thing with me,
Yep.
which I think is really interesting.
Yes. And then you show them the next problem. So then they're like, okay, I see the potential. Now, how do I create a low ticket offer to do the same thing for me? Like, how do I create the ascension? How do I create the curriculum that does that? How do I create all that other stuff? So it creates the desire, which I do desire-based sales, the desire to want to learn more, to do more. So selling to me is a lot easier because I don't have to create or tell you, you need this, you want this. They want it themselves because I planted that for them to decide that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, that's actually a perfect segue because you do talk about three different, I'm going to just say areas or categories when it comes to a passive sales system. And the first one is planting seeds. So before I spoil the other two, I guess I'll just ask, how do you start planting seeds and what do you mean by that?
Yeah. So let me give you my favorite technique. So let's say, you know how I have a lot of clients who are like, if people just experience my work, they're sold, right? If they get on a phone call with me, if they, buy a one-off session, like they know that I'm smart and I just can't figure out how to get that through to them, before, right? So social media doesn't work that same way. So we want to plant that very strategically inside of your low ticket entry offer. This is again, how I sell high ticket. So let's say your specialty is when it comes to how you serve your clients is your onboarding process. Let's say that you're very good at showing them their roadmap for the next 90 days, like whatever it is. Let's just pretend that that's your thing, right? You're like, I'm so good at that. My clients love that process. What I do is show them that. People tend to assume that people know what makes your work so good. And the easiest way to get them to know that is by showing them that, tell them that. So what I do is in my low ticket offers, I will take whatever I know makes my higher ticket offer or my close proximity space, whatever my ascended offer is, so good. I will show that to you and I'll plant that seed in my low ticket offer. So again, let's say it's your onboarding process. What I would do in a low ticket offer is say, this client got this result. I want to show you exactly how we got them there. Take them through when they joined X offer. Here's the onboarding process. Here's what we did. Here's what we identified. You're telling me what's so good about your higher ticket offer, your ascended space, without having to tell me you need to join this offer because the onboarding is so good. You're showing me. I feel like it's part of the experience. That is one way that I seed my ascended offer, I know what makes it so good. I plant that. I give exposure to it earlier on. So then when I do go to sell it actively or they just buy it on their own, they already know that. It's already like, I feel drawn to this because I really want this because, again, you plant that seed earlier on. Does that land?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I think the mental skeptic in me is, how do you make sure that this doesn't become one of those like timeshare schemes where it's like, you get a cheap stay if you sit through this 4-hour mandatory thing where we're just going to hard sell you for this. And so like you got cheap value, but you're also really annoyed about it.
Yes. That's the difference though. It's not a pitch. So it's a value driven seed planted. So an example is in the cash flow calculator, I'm showing you your potential. Then I give you a lesson where I'm like, let me show you how I built a low ticket offer that made $700,000. I'm walking you through what made that offer so good, my catnip strategy, that full curriculum. All you're doing is seeing why that offer's so good. Now you want to buy that offer too. You see what I'm saying? Just by seeing the inner workings of that, I'm not trying to sell you on it. I'm just showing you the value of it. So I feel like that's the difference, is when we see it as an experience versus me trying to get you to buy something, that's the difference. So for me, I'm always leading with value. And I'm doing it in a way where it's not like how I see it, where people tend to get lost is in a low ticket offer, like they have a lesson that's like, here's what to do next. Here's where to go next. Here's what to buy next. No one wants to watch that. No one cares to see that information. Like, I'm not skipping it by, but what I want to know is what's in it for me. So if it's designed to be valuable, like, let me show you how this offer made $700K. I want to watch that. And I'm gonna be like, oh, damn, she's like really smart when it comes to curriculum building. I want to learn how to do that too. So it's like when you're framing it, symptom wise, framing it in what's in their best interest, what they want to know and understand and see, that's when it gets less timeshare-y, pyramid schemey.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so obviously there's still going to be some resistance, even though you show and you plant the seed. So what does dissolving that resistance look like?
Yeah. So again, I plant those seeds. So I like to think about, why wouldn't someone join? Okay. So one of the small ways that someone wouldn't join the club, let's say a mastermind, is they've joined masterminds before. It's been one giant Q&A. They just show up and they're like, okay, I just like ask questions. That's weird. There's no direction. There's no whatever. I know what makes the club so good is how I structure the feedback, our 6-week sprint, the 2 weeks in Telegram. We have a loan together. I have a whole onboarding part. Like I had the whole thing done and locked in. What I show people is literally how my Telegram is set up. You have your own channel. You have your own communication with me. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, here's what makes the club communication so good. I'm just showing it visually in reference to a value point within the curriculum that you're like, oh shit, like that's pretty cool. I'll give you an example. One of my clients, she has a membership, right? Very big audience, low ticket membership, and which is passive for her. She has a VIP version of it, right? And so she's like, I cannot sell the VIP version to save my life. And I'm like, it's because they need to see the difference, right? They need to see what's in VIP just visually. So when I was asking her, what makes your VIP version so good? She goes, they have me in Slack. I'm voice noting them back. I'm like, you can write that in a bullet note, right? We can read that on the sales page. Show it to me. So what I had her do was, again, she sends back like 15-minute messages. Like she is like in it, right? I had her just take screenshots of how long she is in there and how long her voice notes are. She ended up selling that like wildfire because, again, we just need to see it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Visually, it works really well, but I feel like we expect people to read the whole sales page to go through. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So I very strategically like to show people how we be more creative in how we plant those seeds, dissolve that resistance. So again, they might be like, I'm not paying more to get her in Slack. Then they're seeing how they get her in Slack. They're like, oh, actually, now this feels valuable to me, right? Now I feel like this is worth the investment. So yeah.
Would you say that this like dissolving process and showing visually, is this equally important on a sales page and in a product, or
Always.
Is it buried in a product?
Everywhere and anywhere we could do that. Instagram story is highlights, sales page, within a curriculum, within the low ticket, like everywhere. Because again, multiple exposures what we want to do, because subconsciously that's locking in. So again, when I think about selling without selling, if I want to do it once, I want it all to compound, right? So it feels very exhausting, but once you do it once, you can't unsee it. So you're like, oh, I'm going to do this everywhere I can because this makes sense and it makes my life so much easier. So I'd say where I start, this is dissolving resistance. It happens in a multitude of ways, right? So I just like to think about why would someone not want to join? Sometimes it's exposure, sometimes it's like lack of knowledge, sometimes it's they need to see for themselves. Example, cash flow calculator. They need to see their own potential, right? Before instead of me telling them their potential. But I like to look at when people are buying from me real time, what questions are they asking me in the DMs? What questions are coming through over and over and over again? I will take those questions. I will plant them in a funnel, in curriculum, in the sales page. I will do whatever I can to make that dissolve in any facet, whatever they're touching, it's going to be gone.
Nerdy, tangential, analytical follow-up. You said you were a math and numbers person.
I am.
Have you tracked the number of touch points before the next upsell of like all the places you have to sprinkle these things that people see it before they upsell?
So we will track trajectory of like one offer and how people buy from that offer. So we'll more so of like each buying experience, if you will. We track that just the seeding example, it going from just 2 low ticket offers that we had behind ads, cash flow calculator, and the cash converting content. Those 2 created multiple 6 figures just in upsold through seeding. Not even like trying to sell, just having the visual example there created multiple 6 figures for us. I have the exact numbers, but I track more so based on the like data trends. So not necessarily like, sure, we'll look at like golden thread of is there a different buying experience I'm not seeing, but I pretty much know the pulse of how my people move right now. So instead I look at, okay, what are they buying? How are they buying? And how can we compound how they're already buying, if that makes sense. So if I'm seeing that they're buying one offer a lot, is there an order bump on that offer? Is there an upsell on that offer? Can I create more lifetime value on that one offer that they're all buying, within that one offer, if this makes sense? So I will look at ways like that, and then I'll plug in the numbers. Okay, if we added 20% more onto this offer, how much more is that for us, like long-term cash flow? So I do things like that, a lot of refining. It's really fun when you're like in it, you're like, this is like, you feel like a magician. But more so that way, if that lands, than just looking at like overall, what's the touch point from there. But I like to say, and just recently looking at how people have moved in my world, 4 has been our magic number. So they'll enter when we think about how they move. We have the entry offer, we have the order bump, upsell not even included. They usually buy one other offer in between the ascended offers to the club. That could be a seated offer, an upsold offer through the funnel. It could like literally be whatever that is, typically 4. But again, statistically speaking, in my world, it's insane how many people go from just the low entry into the high ticket space. It is wild. And I'd say the amount of people who joined the club that came from just watch the ads, didn't even buy the low ticket offer, but then joined the club from the ad, didn't even know who I was. It's so cool to watch how when you're so intentional with the messaging and how you are selling, again, you collapse so much time so quickly when it comes to the people and how they enter your world and how they buy. Because again, it's desire based. It's not fear, urgency, that kind of tactic, which is how we were traditionally taught to sell. It's different. It's a different world.
Yeah. Is part of that because of how you are stacking perceived value?
Yes. It's how stacking perceived value and how well I know my ideal client.
Which you know them very well. Like you have definitely done the work. And one thing I really appreciate about you is you do collect data and you look at it to make moves accordingly. And you're not just looking at current buyer behavior, how it's changed. Like, yes, that's important. You're looking at your own people and how their buyer behavior has shifted. So yes, to that point, I would like to hear about the stacked perceived value part, because I think that's the third part of your passive sales system, right? The first 2 was like planting those seeds, dissolving the resistance, and then the third part is stacking perceived value. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So when we look at how and why we buy, we don't just buy because the offer has value. We want to learn the thing, right? We also want to buy from the person that we are buying from, right? So one of the ways that this works in like different categories of how I stack value, but when we look at, let's say, I'm just using my ad strategy, for instance, because I feel like it's the easiest to kind of say this. Well, I can convert cold audiences, again, very, very quickly because how I stack perceived value based on who I am. So how that looks is I always and only have 3 ads running, and there are 3 different kinds of ads. So the one is going to be all about my personality. So I will traditionally do some kind of funny voiceover. I think I'm funny. I like to lead with humor. So I'll do something funny that kind of just shows who I am, right? That's number one. Number two will be an expertise video. So usually long form. And I will do, I love numbers. I love spreadsheets. I want them to know that before they even come into my world, because I don't want them to be shocked when they come in. They're like, spreadsheets and numbers? And what are these? I want them to know that's my vibe from day one. So what they'll do is they'll come in and they'll see an ad that's me talking long form about the cash flow calculator, how it works, how I stack value. I'm showing them, again, my expertise, where I want to own my part of the internet. Then the third one's me more like offer driven. So what's in it for them when they buy said offer. So kind of what we've been speaking to. But what's really cool is instead of it being an ad that's like, buy my offer for $27, right? The picture of the person, just like the number on the side. I hate those ads. No offense, whoever's doing them. There's a better way. We put so much emphasis on just the price being the value. That's the price.
Right.
That's the thing. It's low ticket. So you should go buy it. There's so many low ticket offers online. That's not moving us anymore. So I like to, again, stack perceived value when it comes to who I am. You're getting a very clear picture very fast in different ways of seeing who I am. Okay. So that's why I stack perceived value. Number two is we want to look at, when we think about perceived value within an offer and sending into other offers, is them seeing their own potential. Okay. This is something that, again, cash flow calculator is a good example of that. But when we look at how we see traditional sales tactics, it's fear. It's, again, urgency. It's you're missing out. It's here's what you're doing wrong. It's a lot of, sure, acknowledging what they're struggling with. But what people don't realize is they want to know where they're going with you. Where are they going? Where is that? So when I think about like the club and someone who wants to be in that world and really compound cash and do all the crazy things I'm talking about, I want to give an articulation around who is the stock CEO? Who is that? Who do they want to become? What's the identity? Who do they want to be? And I feel like people do that on accident sometimes when they sell really well. They accidentally create an identity for you to walk into, right? But when you do this very intentionally, it becomes really easy for them to be like, okay, I see the value of the offer. I see how she's the one for me. I see who I'm becoming in this process. Can you see how it starts to stack perceived value in a way that's not just, oh, well, here's what I'm getting out of this offer. It's I'm seeing the world I'm entering, right? The buying experience.
Right.
You get hooked.
Well, and what's so interesting is as you were talking, it clicked for me that oftentimes we think about this as very one-sided. The seller is the one who gets all the benefits because you're the one making all the money and there's the buyer. Not true. It's mutual because there are so many people looking for long-term partnerships. And so the fact that you have built this ecosystem that funnels people in and gives them that option to be able to work with you in multiple ways for a long term is not just benefiting the seller. It benefits the buyer just as, if not more.
Because there's an experience, right? Now when you hear like a lead magnet, you're like, ooh, like it just doesn't land the same, right? When you're thinking of it a bit more intentionally. But again, to me, and I'm going to say this with a lot of confidence and like 10 toes down, full chest, but I feel like the online space is going to take a massive turn because everyone is so quick, get the thing, do the thing. Like there's just so much online, right? And so when we create these experiences for people, again, it collapses a lot of time. They move so much faster, the most aligned clients you'll ever have in your entire life. And they never want to leave. They never want to leave because it's a different standard you're holding. When I say low ticket legacy, I'm not kidding. It's like a legacy offer that you want to build. And my first low ticket offer was actually an accident. It being $700K, didn't even mean to do that. I saw in OMA, if you remember those days, you used to do my brand photos for those.
I remember.
Yeah. For OMA. And it was a dominating container. It was so good, right? But I was burnt out. I could not scale that thing to save my life in the way that I knew integrity wise I could. So being as data driven as I am, I saw in that container that the people who got the fastest results had mastered my content system the earliest. So what I did was, I'm like, if I just pull it out, sell it separately, I'm doing them a service, right? So my intention was to help them help themselves long term. And when it made 60K in its first launch, I exceeded what I would make in a group container. I'm like, I'm onto something here, right? And the way that I built it on accident, catnip style, very quick to ascend, it started feeding OMA on its own. I was like, and that's what birthed this desire to see how far I could take the whole passive, low ticket route. And it's just, again, once you experience it, ask any of my clients, you're like, where have I been all this time? It really is it's so intentional that it's so much easier, it's just like you've been working so hard for what? Because again, traditional business just tells you have to like launch and sell and launch and sell. I'm like, I want to have fun and be creative and create an experience for people that they don't want to actually leave. Like that's my vibe. So
Yeah. Yeah. I like it.
2 follow-up questions. I promise they're connected. If you're looking at starting your own like bottom tier cheap entry point in 2026, what is the formats that you're seeing that are working best for that? And what is the data you're looking at of what you should be using?
yes. So number one is you want to solve a high level problem. Again, going back to mistakes people make when it comes to low ticket is they think low ticket is low value, or they think low ticket's for beginners. People who aren't ready for their high ticket stuff. And so what they do is they actually create space between people entering their world and people ascending in their world. So like all of my offers are built for one person. I'm not building them from like this person's
Right.
not ready. So here's the thing. And I think people get confused too because people will ask for things. Hey, can you make me an offer on this? Like how to get started, how to create my first. I'm like, I don't do that because my zone of genius is here. So I own that. I don't get distracted with that. So I'd say number one is when we look at the low ticket offer itself in 2026, is that solving a high level problem for your high level client who is made for your highest ticketed space, your premium space. That's number one. Number two, again, we don't want to build the low ticket offer through scarcity, which again sounds weird because you're like, it's low ticket. But we tend to, again, stuff it full of stuff, right? Just give them more to be perceived as high value. That's not the perception of value that I want to give, right? I want to give them actual transformation, quick transformation. So again, that catnip style of transformation, unfortunately, in the world we live in, people want quick results. And so what I do, and we hear that and we're like, I don't do quick results. Everyone does quick results in some kind of way, right? So it could be an aha, a belief. It could be showing them something. Again, Cashflow Calculator, a good example of what that looks like. It's giving them something that they can quickly take and they can run with it. One of my clients, she's fantastic, a photographer actually. She has her catnip offer that we built was she has this fun way of taking an old wedding that you shot and pulling that into a story sequence slide that she has like 9 stories to sell your wedding package. And she's like, it works for me so well. I'm going to teach it. She sells that making bank. Okay. That's selling her next offer, her main signature space. But it's like, again, catnip. They want to get a taste of your zone of genius, how you do it, whatever. So I'd say in today's world of low ticket, who it's built for and how it's built is so important. I think that we tend again to get we distracted in what we think it needs to have. I don't have a PDFs or a lot of fluffy things or a lot of blah, blah, blah. Like literally Cashflow Calculator is a Google sheet and it's fantastic and it's simple and it works. And so like, I think that we tend to like overthink what is the most efficient way to deliver said information.
The like second part of this was like the delivery format that is working best right now. Like, are you delivering this as like a Loom video with a spreadsheet? Is this a PDF? Is this something else? Like, what's the formats that you see are really landing well with people?
That's a great question. So the format is irrelevant. Follow me. The format of the low ticket offer needs to match and mimic the format of your high ticket offer. So like what I like to do, again, when I'm talking about seating, I want you to get used to having me in a certain format that you're going to have me in a different offer. So PDFs, not my style. So I'm like, yeah, clearly I could talk. So I will do videos because I love to talk. I love to hear myself talk. So I will do that. I love to be face to face. Doing just audio is not my style. I like to be very visual. So for me, if I want to give you a taste of that experience earlier on, it'll be earlier on. So that's just a personal preference when I think about how we are, again, seeding the experience you're going to provide later on. That's number one. But I'd argue that we're entering back into a more visual, interactive space. You're going to see a lot of more live low-ticket elements coming back into space. People are craving more real-time connection. PDFs, I don't see that being a big thing this year. I do see more audio series, so more of like private podcasts, those kinds of, dropped elements being big. But I think that we're craving more. You'll see the live launches come back with the live webinars and things that kind of coming back into play because again, people are craving more. Everything's been passive for so long, right? Coming a group program, high ticket era, falling into passive. Now people are entering back into, I want more live events. I want more of this. So I'd say there's always trends, but for me, what has always been tested and has been true for me long term is how can I just give you what I would give you in a higher ticket space and a lower ticket space format wise.
Well, it also ties directly into what you were saying on don't create for two different clientele. It's the same clientele, just two different formats depending on the need that they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it all connects. I'm curious on, you've brought up different marketing things, and I know that you love to nerd out on the marketing side of things as well. What does your marketing funnel look like? Because you've mentioned Instagram, you've mentioned ads, email, like what are the different marketing tools that you use and how do they all work together?
Those are the three that I use. I'd say if we were to use a fourth, so like where I host my courses, that because I leverage that quite a bit in terms of the real estate visually of how I seed and sell other offers. So I'd say email, I just use Instagram, just meta ads is what I do. I don't do anything else. Tried TikTok again in the season of life, just not doable for me. So email, course platform, social media, ads. That's really it. You know what's so crazy though is I feel like we tend to hear funnels and ads and like we get so weirded out by that. Like the idea that it's going to take so much work. I literally reuse my social media content for everything. I mean, you already have the data of what's responding. People are responding to. I just reuse it in a way that makes sense long term. So when we understand, again, the buying experience, the real like sales psychology of the flow, that just translates everywhere else. So how my ads are built, it's repurposed content just built to fit three categories. When I look at my upsell email and how I built my emails, it's designed to hit certain, subconscious buying patterns, like what we want to see, what we want to hear, what we need to know, that kind of thing, right? So, and then within my curriculum, you see how it all like compounds, but we think that it's so much more work than it actually is when we understand why people buy. Really simple. But yeah, I reuse everything.
I love it.
I think on the marketing side, there's a big question, like when you're doing courses or things like that, whether it's evergreen or cart open, cart closed, do you have an opinion on what's working better for you?
So this is going to be an interesting answer. For me, it's irrelevant. And let me explain why. So I think that, again, traditional marketing, traditional sales tactics are very urgency driven. And so when you're urgency driven, to create momentum in your sales process, you have to have some kind of driving force. So it's an open and close cart. It's, a pricing incentive. It's, pre-sale and full price. It's whatever that is. And when we are reliant on that, we don't make sales without it. So for a lot of people, they kind of get trapped in, open and close cart works for me because they don't know how to sell otherwise, right? So I'd say I've done all of the above. I don't mind all of the above. To me, I will do kind of a mix of open and closed cart in a promo, like we'll do pop-up promos and things just for funsies. But other than that, people buy at every price point all the time. And so again, when traditional sales, urgency, prices going up, this, that, the other thing, when we rely on that, we rely on that. So for me, if I can create so much desire and so much compounded value, that's almost irrelevant. So to me, I just see the buying experience differently and I want more longevity. I also, integrity wise, hate how much it's not real. You know what I mean? Like open and close cart, but you can still buy if you text me. Like it's just, to me, just like weird. So if I'm doing a promo or flash sale, there's a bonus you get for buying in that period of time. But again, I don't rely on that because people just wait for the next flash sale. They'll just wait for the next promo. So I'd say what I do see working well depends on how you're selling. So open and close cart, I feel like will always be in style because there is that urgency of like buy now. But the way that I like to sell is you can find me tomorrow and then buy something that I sold 6 weeks ago. It doesn't matter. Like I want to be so good at selling. You buy everything at all times, So that's a different way of doing it. So I'd say having both is usually a sweet spot, but not being reliant on the active promo or open and close cart in order to drive sales.
Yeah. Okay. I have one last question and then maybe Lyndon will have one before we move into lightning round. But I know you are really good at pre-selling and there may be listeners tuning in who don't know what that means. So can you first define what does it mean to pre-sell? And then 2, what does your pre-selling process look like?
Yeah. So when I am in a launch or I am pre-selling, so mind you, I have all that behind the scenes sales process happening. So the exposure, perceived value, you can see why now when I do go into a pre-launch, people are like sold, because I've already sold them passively behind the scenes. So I'd say when I enter a pre-launch, so I always feel like once a quarter, I like to have fun. I like to do some kind of saturation of here's why this offer is the offer, which you'll see like with a club, for instance, entering a club launch, right? I want it to be a big deal. But what I like doing is in the pre-launch, I typically traditionally will sell via email first, okay? Because they're already in my world from buying a low ticket entry offer, right? They're not already in. Now's the time, baby. So I will spend about 1 week behind the scenes emailing them early. I will talk to them directly about like, again, using just how I funnel those emails and turn into a funnel. I just use my email strategy to then give them different exposures as to why they need to join, more in-depth, more personalized conversation. While I'm doing that behind the scenes, I spend that week publicly seeding something's coming. I'm teasing it. I am showing people who are joining. I'm creating a lot of like FOMO and like, what the hell is she doing? How are people buying? She's not even selling anything. Like, what the hell? I like to create a lot of that like mysteriousness of like, oh, she's doing crazy shit. So I'll do that. And then I will ensure that I am saturating my social media with what that offer topic is. People, again, think that people see everything that we post, everything that we say. They don't, okay? So leading up to the active launch or active pre-launch of anything that I'm doing, I like to make sure that the conversation from the Stack CEO, off potentiality, how they're scaling their business, I will talk about that at nauseum before I even go into a pre-launch of anything. That's considered a pre-launch, right? I'm seeding in my social media, all of that. So I'll do all of that. Behind the scenes, have people buying, and then front facing is when I open cart, do the whole launch thing and have fun with that. But again, it's there. I love finding new ways to sell. That just feels really like fun and exciting. But I'd say pre-launch wise, that's what I love doing. Behind the scenes sell, the hottest, and then front facing. But if I'm going to sell like, let's say a sales program, I better be known for sales on my social media before you even ask for a sale. That. Like that's crazy. So I think ensuring that people know you for that first is very, very important.
I think as we're kind of like wrapping up like the main portion of this around like sales, you've now mentioned like when you're running ads, one of them is about get to know Mel. Like you're putting value of I want to be known for these things. When you think about your online footprint, how much of a personal brand plays into that versus I'm an expert in this topic?
It's a great question. We always want to have a personal brand, but I do it very strategically. So like the way that I like to see this is when I think personal brand, I like to think of how am I a living embodiment of what I stand for? So like for me, when I think about the work that I do, it's the same thing, just I'm the living, breathing portion of that. So an example of what I mean by that is I want to be known for sales and passive sales and stacking cash and like just being so launch and selling optional. Like that's the goal always. So for me, I want to show that I live that matters to me. So I'll show a lot of my kids and spending time with them and making sales while I'm playing with them. So me showing that embodiment piece to me is really important. I don't show everything. I don't show my husband anymore. Like I'm not showing my house. I'll show my DIY projects sometimes, but I feel like when we think about strategically what we want to show and that brand piece, it should always be an amplifier and an embodiment portion of what you want to be known for, right? So being that living, breathing example of that's important. So I'd say what matters to you a lot is what you should represent. So like for me, when it comes to hiring a mentor, hiring a coach, I care a lot about how disciplined they are when it comes to their health and their wellness. Like I'm not going to hire someone who can't even take care of themselves, right? Because that to me is a direct reflection of how you take care of your time, how you take care of your clients. So little things like this, I'm like, show that more. People want to see that. And so I think that's really big. I think that even like my style of parenting and how intentional I am and how that's like a non-negotiable for me in terms of like spending time with them first, everything else can wait. I like to show that because again, it matters a lot to me. I've built my business to support that vision. So I think that when we think about brand, at least how I perceive it is it again, always be an amplifier, but it should be strategic. It should always be strategic. And we don't have to show everything, make it matter.
Agreed. That's so good.
I love if I think about like mid 2010s marketing strategy, you just walked us into your content pillars like, what are the things I talk about that funnel into like, this is what my clients aspire to.
Yeah. What I ask myself, this is like the easiest way, is what am I so good at that people always tell me I'm good at that? Like what are things that I just do so naturally? People are like, I wish I was more like that. Like I'm very organized, I'm a very intentional mom. Like I care a lot about, I mean, the way that I was raised, right? I care a lot about how they were brought up and the world they get to live in. And so for me, it's that matters a lot to me. I care a lot about that. I'm good at that. I'm going to show that and own that. Cause I feel like a lot of us, especially when we're very embodied in our work, it's sometimes hard to see that for ourselves. We're like, oh, I'm just like, I'm good at, working out, or I'm good at just being this. I'm good at this. I'm like, show that. It's like, it's a part of your brand world. And we want to be a part of that.
Yeah. No, that's so good. So good. Okay, that brings us to lightning round. Just a couple quick rapid fire questions and then we will call it. But this conversation has been so freaking good. I know we both have our wheels turning and we're going for a walk after this to debrief. So,
and we might be planning a low ticket offer.
Good.
Just putting it out there.
If he's saying that, then we definitely are. Because you don't have to convince me. Okay, lightning rounds. First question is, what book are you currently reading?
Ooh, I am reading A Happy Pocket Full of Money, a classic, and I love it. Good one. Snow.
My TBR, looking into it. Next question.
As a podcast for people that are building sustainable businesses, what does your typical day in the life look like?
Looks different every day. So I'd say the day in my life right now with the two kids is part survival, but I wake up with the babies. I don't work until 10, 11 o'clock. So it's all morning with them. I have the nanny here 3 days a week to take them while I'm on a call, or they join me. So that happens sometimes too. And then typically I get a post done, I get some recording done, I sell something if I want to on social media, and I call it a day. So it's a very boring day, but I love the mundane because it's a season that will never happen again. So I'm like just enjoying the absolute chaos of it all.
I love it. What is something that you are actively learning right now?
Ooh, what am I actively learning right now? That's a great question. I would say AI has been like just Claude Cowork has been a learning curve for me. I have a love and hate relationship with anything that's AI, but just efficiency in that way of, especially as a mom, AI in my life. I mean, more so where it's like grocery list. How could AI take that, add to my cart? So more of that kind of thing. Cause I do genuinely love being hands on in my life. Everyone's like, hire a chef, do that. I'm like, I want to be the mom that's like up all night. And like, I just always dreamt of that. So I want to be my mom makes dinner. My mom makes cookies. Like I just always dreamt of that. So I'm trying to find ways to be more efficient in how I operate within the household. And yeah, that's been just me and AI have a hard time just.
So if I ask like the tactical follow-up, you mentioned groceries.
Mhm.
Is there like a few use cases that you find yourself actually consistently going back to other than I'm just experimenting?
Not yet. When I find something, I'll let you know. But yeah, I haven't cracked the code. I did have, if we're talking about work related, I have Claude pull trending like posts and hooks and things, just give me a list every week of like what they're seeing as like top conversations to give me ideas to bounce off of, but nothing that I'm like, whoa, that blew me away. So not really. No.
Yeah.
That explains their valuation going down in the stock market right now.
Yeah.
If we kind of wrap up here, we like to save time at the end for one last question. Do you have any questions for us?
Yes, I do. So I don't know if you remember this, but I had retired my husband back in the day, right? We worked at home together. He didn't work with me or for me at all, but we hated it. We absolutely could not stand it. I mean, and I love him dearly. We've been together since I was 17. You guys get it? But when it comes to working relationship, what does that look like for you guys? And do you enjoy it? Do you wish it was different?
We do enjoy it. I don't wish it was different. As far as what it looks like, it's evolved. I'll let you explain.
I'm trying to think of like I'm going to start the same way you started this podcast. It's been an evolution.
Yes.
I think year one, we tried to do everything together, and that's a disaster. I think in year two, we're going on year 5. It's been a journey. In year 2, I think we started realizing we needed decision-making authority independently in certain parts of the business. And that was where things started clicking for us, where instead of saying like, you do this task, you do this task, it was now you own this vertical and you own this vertical. And as soon as we started getting independence, we were now working together, not fighting over tasks. And
Or micromanaging.
Yeah.
Fair. I have a
I think that
Yeah. I get it.
I think that was the first big unlock. I think the second one, probably like year 3, is standardizing communication. Like we started putting boundaries in of we have our own focus breaks, and even though we work like 30 feet apart, we text. Because if I'm going to verbally walk over and interrupt you at your desk, you have now broken focus. Whereas a text, you can look at it when you want to. And like instituting some of those like co-working norms made a pretty big, but then there was also like work hours, because we are trying to maintain a healthy partnership relationship, not just a co-working relationship. And so some of it was just like after 5 or 6 p.m., whatever we're calling end of work day, if you have a work topic, you have to ask if it's okay to talk about it.
Like
or
if the other person has
if
capacity.
the other person has capacity. And if the answer is no, you have to respect that. And there's just like working hours of like, you get to have your morning routine. Like I cannot present a new low ticket offer idea at 6:30 a.m. because one person will be really frustrated about that. And it's the person that's not excited about it. And so we work fairly standard, like 9:30 to 5:30. And outside of that, it's you have to ask if you can talk about work. And we don't open Instagram on weekends. We don't check work email on weekends, because that is our time and it's not work time.
And I'm sure it will evolve again.
Yeah.
Like, but that's in this current season what works really well for us.
It's good to know. Good points.
And then I think the other one is just like understanding. Like some of it is just like whoever cares more has a say sometimes, and you can't win every battle. Like the normal like relationship stuff does still kind of apply in work, because it's the same and you try not to let it bleed in.
At the end of the day, it's the two of you overwork. Well, this has been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and just sharing all of your brilliant knowledge, Mel. I mean, honestly, you have so much to share. And for anyone listening, I can, again, testify that this is like scratching the surface for Mel. So I know the light bulbs have been popping off for you. And if you would like to learn more from Mel, how can they connect with you any further?
Yes, on Instagram, it's Melanie Aubert is where I'm the most active. That's where I'm at.
Amazing. We'll drop that link in the show notes for you guys for easy access. Thank you guys for listening all the way to the end. Thank you, Mel, for your time and for your amazing knowledge. I know the wheels are turning for us, and I am sure it is the same for our listeners. So on that note, thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.